Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about Bitcoin and the new all-time high that we've experienced this cycle. Now, today in this video I kind of want to look at some indicators to sort of look for confluence in where we are in the market cycle and the current price action of the cycle currently. So, as you can see, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high of approximately 110, almost 111,000 just today. And earlier this week, I talked about how if we sort of get this weekly close above this level where we first saw this capitulation right here into April, if we sort of get a weekly candle above that level, then I can see that you can sort of start to see Bitcoin curl over here and see Bitcoin perhaps ultimately hit a new all-time high like we discussed. And the reasoning for that was essentially if you see the gold wave here, which is a sort of an SMMA indicator. It's a lagging indicator essentially, but you can sort of see that we've held support at it a couple of times during the cycle, and then when we broke out here, we sort of saw the cycle start. So we talked about how if we sort of hold this level here, and if we get a weekly close above 100K, then you can sort of see Bitcoin start to roll over. And I actually wanted to show this on the Heiken Ashi candle so we can get a better representation of it. So this breakout in Bitcoin's price was actually pretty strong if you look at it on the Heiken Ashi candles here, with the wicks up and the long wicks up and big candle bodies here. And you can see it's sort of reminiscent of when we experience an all-time high here, an all-time high, or a cycle high here, a cycle high here, and a cycle high here as well. So I wanted to look at some other indicators that should have sort of just show confluence with where we are in the current market cycle. And the first indicator I want to look at is the logarithmic regression trend line. And I talked about this in my previous video, but you can essentially see that whenever Bitcoin goes up into these the long end of this red bubble area here, you can sort of see it always essentially comes back down into these green levels, the fair value trend line here, and sort of goes into an accumulation zone in every 4 years. So it lines up with the halving, and every 4 years we get an halving in Bitcoin's mining. And essentially you can see, yeah, so this current cycle, if you just zoom in on this right now, you can sort of see we hit, last cycle we hit around 63K when we first tagged that upper red trend line there, and then sort of came back down into the accumulation zone like we have before. This cycle, we can see it's sort of trending up into that level, which if we turn on the upper bubble upper band, or the upper, the lower bubble lower band, you can sort of see the bubble lower is currently at $113,000, and the current Bitcoin price is around 110K. Yeah, 110K right now. And you can see every time we sort of hit this level, this bubble lower level, back in March of 2024, it was around $80,000, and we sort of didn't really hit that level, but we bounced back below it, and we sort of went into the non-bubble upper band, which was approximately $59,000, and that's where we sort of saw that bounce from Bitcoin. If you look at the actual candles here, so right now we're sort of going up into that bubble area there at 113K, and this would be a good area to watch in Bitcoin's price essentially, because we've sort of resisted this level in Bitcoin's price and for 2 times in a row. And if we can break above this level durably, then you can sort of see Bitcoin sort of try to get above that level even more and try to go up to the upper bubble level. So if you actually take the log band position of this ratio here, and you sort of get the percentage change between each log band, then you can get this sort of chart that shows right here. And let me just turn off these so it's easier to read. So if you sort of see here, we've held support around these levels here. If you sort of draw a line through here, you can sort of see that Bitcoin's held these levels as it does in a bull market, as it has in 2017, 2016, 2013, 2020, 2011, and 2021. So you can sort of see we don't break below this level until around the bear market year, the midterm year, where Bitcoin essentially rolls over into that accumulation zone. So if we were to see another all-time high this cycle, let's say Bitcoin going to around 120K, which would correspond to the non-bubble ratio going to around 3, that would correspond to approximately 130, 140K Bitcoin. So if you can sort of see going, if you see Bitcoin sort of rolling over here, that's pretty bullish for the long-term health of the cycle. So this is just one indicator. I want to show another one, the crypto risk indicator. And let me just clear all of these. So this indicator is a pretty good one in my opinion, and it uses it accounts for Bitcoin's price, diminishing returns, as well as using a machine learning analysis technique to sort of map the values from 0 to 1. And you can sort of see when we hit these 0.95 to 1 risk levels, that sort of corresponds to Bitcoin's price hitting a top. And then when we sort of see these 0 to 0.05 risk level, that's corresponding to Bitcoin going to a low for that cycle in the bear market year. So we're currently at around 0.57, and the highest we went was 0.72 when Bitcoin was at 108K in December of 2024. You can sort of see we rolled back down, we hit 0.24, and it would probably be easier to show it on the actual risk levels here. So we saw Bitcoin when we saw Bitcoin at 55K around there, we saw Bitcoin at 0.95 risk. And then when Bitcoin saw this correction in April, we saw it go to around 0.18 at around a $76,000 Bitcoin. So currently it is at 0.57. And if you're wondering why it's lower, even though we're at a higher price, it's sort of the same thing. If you look at the logarithmic regression trend line here, you can sort of see that even though we hit a higher value here on the bubble ratio, we're at 106K, and we're over the lower bubble. And if you look at it now, we're not even close to that lower red trend line there. So as Bitcoin trends up with time, as time passes by, essentially those indicators will essentially go up, and you'll need more of a market cap to essentially move the value to move the value of Bitcoin. So more money is required to put the price higher essentially, and that this indicator essentially accounts for those changes in price and momentum. So the highest we went was around 0.72. We're currently at 5.7. Another indicator I kind of want to show is the VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price ratio, and it's essentially comparing the price to the historical volume, and you can sort of see the volume actually corresponds to either major tops or major bottoms. So you can see that during 2021 in the bear market year, we sort of saw Bitcoin go down to around these levels, and then essentially the volume sort of corresponded to that. So currently this is actually trending up at around a 1.3 ratio. The highest we actually hit was 1.8. Last cycle we hit around 3. If you look at it on the y-axis, yeah, last cycle we hit around 3. The cycle before that we also hit around 3, and the 2013 cycle we hit around 5, just because the volume was insane back then, and we also hit around 3 in the first peak there, which was a double peak cycle. And if you were to look at this one, it was around 3 as well. I just don't have the data. So the current highest we've hit this cycle at around 69K was approximately around 1.8. So this is actually a good thing. I think that this thing is also this indicator also trending up with time is a good sign of Bitcoin sort of maintaining the integrity of this market cycle. So yeah, this indicator is also pretty cool. If you guys want access to any of these indicators, I have a Telegram that you can join in the description below. Currently the site's in beta, but I'm gonna have it out pretty soon here. The next indicator I wanted to look at for sort of that confluence is the sort of the death cross analysis. So every time Bitcoin's 50-day MA and the 200-day MA cross, you essentially have either a death cross or a golden cross. And if you take the moving average spread, which is just the percentage difference between the two moving averages, you can sort of see that this sort of indicates a major top in the market, or a local top in the market, or a local bottom. So currently we've seen the death cross, but essentially rally up into that. We've essentially rallied into this death cross. And pretty soon here, we're going to have a golden cross. Expected date is around May 23rd. And you can sort of see here that the moving average spread is also trending up here. And the 3 times that this has happened prior, or the 2 times that this happened prior to the cycle, you can sort of see whenever we go below the 0%, which is just whenever they cross, essentially, when it goes below 0, then you can see we've had a death cross or a golden cross. So when the moving averages go above the 0 line, that's a golden cross. When they go below, it's a death cross. So you can sort of see we've just repeated what we've done in 2023, 2024, and now currently in 2025. This moving average is sort of trending up, and we're about to hit a golden cross again. Now, just because we're going to have this golden cross doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's price is going to continue to go up. As you can see in prior cycles here, even though we went above and we had a golden cross in 2014, the price of Bitcoin, essentially because we were in a bear market year for Bitcoin, the price still trended down. Same thing you can see in 2020 when we had a recession. You can sort of see that Bitcoin, despite having a golden cross, we still rolled back around, and we saw that another death cross occur here. And then you sort of saw it trend up with time, because that was the pre-halving year. That's essentially when Bitcoin trends up. So now we're in the post-halving year for Bitcoin 2025, and historically speaking, this likely results to a higher high for Bitcoin, just historically speaking, for a golden cross. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't get downside momentum for a couple of weeks, or short-term momentum for short-term downside for a couple of weeks. And you've actually seen that happen in Bitcoin's price. So even though we had this golden cross here, you can sort of see we trend down for a bit, and then tried to test back up these levels, and then sort of go back down, test above them again, go back down, test above, go back down, test above. So Bitcoin is doing what it's always done this time of the year. It's just a different sort of scenario where you get these multiple golden crosses and death crosses, which has sort of been a little bit hard to navigate. But essentially, if you just hold Bitcoin, and it'll just trend up with time, except in bear market years where it'll essentially go down. So the next indicator I wanted to look at was the ROI analysis here, which is also sort of curling over here. So this is the ROI analysis. The current period that we have selected is the 1 year, so the 365-day running ROI. So the return on investment is just the performance of an asset over a given period of time, in this case 1 year. And whenever Bitcoin sort of has these low periods where the ROI essentially goes down to 20 to 30%, you can sort of see that corresponds to a bear market or a top for Bitcoin's price. So in 2013, we saw this go up and top around $1,000. In 2017, it topped around $19,000. And in 2021, it topped around $59,000. Same thing for the bottoms. In 2022, we saw this go around negative 20%. So if the ROI is at 20%, that is essentially a negative 80% drop in Bitcoin's price. So we only hit a 73% drop last cycle. And you can sort of see we hit these lows, so negative 80%, 20% ROI in 2018. And in 2015, the bear market year, we hit around 73% drawdown. And in the first cycle, in 2012, we saw this hit around a 76% drawdown. So they're pretty accurate in terms of showing the tops and bottoms on Bitcoin's price. And you can sort of see that this cycle we've sort of just been going sideways here since 2023, and that is essentially, even though the price of Bitcoin has essentially gone up during this period, you can sort of see it's sort of going sideways, even though we've gone up, because this is a running 1 year ROI analysis, so it's going to take the percentage change from 1 year ago. So if you sort of look at now in May 20th, 2025, let's check last May. So the price during last May was around $66,000, and it was sort of trending down, or sorry, it was sort of, the ROI was going up in that time frame. So you can sort of see that Bitcoin's ROI, the running 1 year ROI, is sort of trending down. If you look at it on the, if you zoom in on this value here, so it's sort of going down just a little bit, but it's recently started to, sorry. So you can see it's sort of going down a little bit just because it's taking the percentage change from 1 year ago, which if I can find it again. So in May it was going up, and currently we're going up, but not as much. So that's why the ROI is going down right now. But you can sort of see that this year we've sort of been going up, or recently we've sort of been trending up and curling up over time. So I think these 4 indicators are pretty good to showcase where Bitcoin is in the current cycle. And if we sort of look at the current price, so I want to preface by saying, like, no one really knows how high Bitcoin will go this cycle. I have no idea how high Bitcoin will go this cycle, but anyone telling you otherwise is just lying straight out of their mouth. So yeah, don't trust those people. But I would say that Bitcoin does give you that upside risk while minimizing that downside risk. So if you look at total 3, you can sort of see that total 3, which is all the crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can sort of see if you were in altcoins this cycle, you barely saw an all-time high. And now Bitcoin hit an all-time high right now, but the total 3 has essentially hit a lower high this cycle, even though it's essentially hitting higher lows. You can sort of see that the altcoin market entirely has just been underperforming Bitcoin if you look at it on a long enough time frame. And yeah, so I would just say to keep a lookout on the upcoming golden cross, which has essentially marked Bitcoin going up over a short amount of time. And I would say once we get into the year 2026, then you can sort of see Bitcoin start to maybe roll over into the bear market year, and essentially see all of these indicators go down the logarithmic regression trend line, sort of curl over, the crypto metrics curl over, the volume curl over, the ROI curl over, and so on. I think Bitcoin will hit an all-time high, another all-time high by the end of the year. I think my base case would probably be around 120, 130K. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to join our Telegram down in the link below. Thanks for watching. Bye.